do I feel?
Hey, folks. At a time when the real estate market is seemingly out of control, we have an economy that nobody knows if we're in a recession or not in a recession. Many investors continue to sit on the sidelines. Yet this is a time to invest in real estate, to put your capital into a very, very proven store of values. But you need to be a little creative in order to take advantage of this market. And I'm joined today by a good friend and probably someone that all REIN members know, or at least know of. He is the man, the myth, the legend when it comes to creative buying strategies, a lawyer for more years than he probably cares to think about, having done thousands of deals. Barry McGuire, thanks for joining me. You're going to be also joining us on the 20th. We'll talk about that in a minute, but thanks for joining me, pal.
Well, thanks, Patrick. I always enjoy these sessions. They're fun. We get to, pass along a little bit about what we know to interested listeners. And so, I love doing these.
Guess how? Yeah, I couldn't guess, but just imagine how many times you and I have been on stage where we've been sharing with investors how to take advantage of different markets. I still am of the mindset, if you will, or very strong belief based on many years that there is no bad economies for investing in real estate. There's just the wrong strategy. So in times like these, when we look across Canada, what is happening in Ontario versus Alberta versus British Columbia, there is no one size strategy fits all. And for many years, you've had a real propensity and developed a very strong program for creative buying strategies. So let's just tap into that, because at the REIN member meeting on the 20th, folks, only on the 20th, Barry's available on the 20th. So that's what we're going to do. And he's going to come out and share some of his insights into those buying strategies. So agreements for sale, rent to own, flipping, wholesaling. There's so many, Barry. So what do we want to talk about on the 20th? Where do you want to kind of enter that conversation so we can give REIN members who are going to be at the meeting some insights into what we're going to be talking about?
All right. Well, on the 20th, we'll dive into some of the details about how the strategies actually work. But I think today, Patrick, I want to carry on with your statement that it's a funny old market that we're in right now, and creative strategies can be of assistance to you in any market. Doesn't matter what market you're in. And I mean, we've said it a zillion times, real estate is local, and we all hate it when CBC or the Globe and Mail say, well, across Canada, the average price of a home is, when they pop in a number that bears no relation to buying in West Podunk, Alberta, or downtown Toronto or Vancouver. I mean, it's crazy that they do that. So creative strategies work differently in different markets, but there's always a market for a creative strategy is what I like to say. So, and just as we're getting started here, and when you want to talk about it, I want to just give you an example of something that came across my desk just this week. So I helped a client and a friend buy a property in Calgary. It would be about 4 years ago now. The market was not very good in Calgary. It was COVID. It was this, it was that. He bought a nice property in a nice area for about $500,000, put up $25,000 and took over the mortgage by way of agreement for sale for $475,000. So it was a $500,000 thing, 25 in. He called me this week and said, I'm thinking of selling this property. I said, oh, really, Bill? How much? What do you think it's worth today? He goes, $750,000. I said, so how much do you still have to pay your seller? You gave him 25 at the beginning. What do you have to give him now? He goes, nothing. The whole equity gain is mine. And then he said, I've got somebody who's willing to lend me some money against that $250,000 worth of equity that I've built up. And how can we do that? So I talked to him about that. Now, that's something that I haven't ever done before, which is somebody who had enough of a gain in an AFS that some investor would look at it and go, well, I'm not really sure what this AFS is, but I understand what $250,000 worth of equity is. So we've put together a deal where he can leverage his equity without changing the title or getting out of the AFS. So, when we talk about markets, it was a crappy market in Calgary when he bought, and that's often a good time for strategies when the market is crappy.
Yeah.
And he's going to come out of this looking like a rose. So, I mean, on the 20th, on the Wednesday, we'll get into some more of the details about how that strategy actually works. But it's nice to see somebody do it and then get back to you later and say, well, I'm pretty darn happy with my result here. But, as we talk about it and we talk about different markets requiring different strategies. So, agreements for sale can work in any market as long as you find a seller who's got some problem that you can solve for him. They're over leveraged on their house. The interest rates have changed and they can't take it anymore. But there's some value there, and the what you do is a win-win for both the seller and you. And so, are those deals? Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, well, I think I want to just add in all of this is that, when we come into these kinds of economic uncertainties, it's, first off, if you're a real estate investor, you have to believe, and it's based on, many years of history, it's based on what's going on economically. You have to understand that real estate remains a store of value for capital to put it to work. And given these economic conditions and the climate globally, the global macro even, we start to realize that our capital needs to be put to work. We can't leave it in the bank. In real estate, we can leverage it. And so first, if you believe that, and if you can really understand that, then you should be feeling some urgency to get your capital to work, given what's happening in a global macro. Now, I want to back that up with a couple things. You've been a lawyer for closer to 50 years than 40 years, and you've done literally thousands of these deals. What we have to be really clear on is that when you talk about having the education and doing these strategies, they are more sophisticated, but we'll provide you the tools and the learning to be able to, I guess, initiate these kind of strategies and the team and all the rest of it. It's not like everybody can just go do an AFS without understanding the fundamentals. That's another important part of this. But I think what I heard you say that I don't want to step over is the reality is this. As investors in these economic conditions, we become problem solvers, and that's where the opportunities exist. Somebody has a problem. We have the savvy, the education, the sophistication to solve that problem, and they benefit, we benefit. And I just always want to be clear. This isn't about taking advantage of somebody who's down and out. You're helping them solve a problem, and there's different strategies to employ to be able to do that. And of course, that's what we're going to be talking about on the 20th as well. So I didn't want to cut you off, but I just wanted to insert that little segment there so people really understand what's driving this particular conversation and why at the REIN member meeting you're going to be there. So I'm not throwing a question your way. I want you to continue on with your thought process.
Okay, so Patrick, everything you said is so important. Creative strategies are a bit more sophisticated. It's I think a little tough to dive into creative strategies when you just have said to yourself, real estate. I think that's something about property. I have no idea what it means, but let's get some education. You can't go from that level of knowledge to creative strategies, or you just get yourself in trouble. So education is hugely important. Not taking advantage of people is important. Making it a win-win is important. And of course, being a problem solver is where you find the deals. When people, if people don't need to do anything but stay in those very narrow lines, that's a conventional real estate deal. I mean, if I'm a seller and I can sell my house to 12 people, then you don't probably need a creative strategy that requires you to be a bank. But when you can't sell to anybody, or you're over leveraged, or your interest rate is going from 1.5 to 5, or then you do need somebody. So everything you said is those are precursors and necessary things for people who want to be involved in creative strategies. Important to know and important to implement, for sure.
What's funny about all this, and not funny, haha, but when we look at in a boom market, everybody's a real estate genius. Think back just to 2021, 2022. Everybody's being a genius. Everybody's getting rich in real estate. Let's do this. Let's do that. And all of a sudden, investing turns into speculating, and some would argue even turns into gambling. Well, guess what? When that boom market goes away and we get into these more slumpish markets, or even into the recovery part of the real estate cycle, well, that's boom cycle is what creates many of the opportunities that we're facing today, number one. And number two, just an overarching economic shift that's happening. And again, when we look at the global macro, there's never been a more uncertain time. And these are, in fact, the reasons that we want to invest in real estate. We need to do it the right way, using strategies that are really important. Now, when we look at the different provinces, for example, let's go from one end to the other. When we look at what's happening in Ontario versus Alberta as an example, are you seeing a reason to use one strategy more than another, given what's going on economically? Alberta's kind of booming, or really in a very strong market right now, and certainly economically are stronger. Ontario, kind of the polar opposite of that. There's lots of things going on there. What's your thoughts?
So different strategies apply differently and better or worse in different markets. So when a market is rocketing along or doing very well, the rent to own strategy works better in that kind of a market than it does in a down market. And the reason for that is that rent to own, somebody wants to buy a house, can't do it right now, but they can do it in 3 years if they repair the issue, whatever the issue is. But in 3 years, in a booming economy, the sale price to them is up by a percentage that really makes you money. And it's important to have that equity lift over 2 or 3 or 4 years, so that you can make some money in an RTO. In a flat or down market, the equity is going nowhere, so it doesn't work as well. Wholesaling can work in any market. Wholesaling works in any market. Yeah. Doesn't matter across the country. Yeah. And agreements for sale can also work in any market, although they work better in a down market instead of the boom market that RTO works in. For an agreement for sale, you really run into sellers who they're just up against it. The value of their property is dropped against the value of their mortgage. They're getting transferred. Their interest rate is going up. There's a million reasons why people need to get out of a property in a flat or falling market, and then the agreement for sale strategy, say for Ontario, works better. And Patrick, you'll be happy to hear, after all these years of us fighting the good fight and telling the story, that we have probably 5 or 6 or 7 lawyers in Ontario who understand AFS. People who are doing amazing AFS deals in Ontario, and it's been a long struggle, but they are actually happening there. And so different creative strategies work better in different markets.
I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine that you probably remember as Mark Vasilius, and he lives in Ontario. He just did a rent to own in Calgary last week, I think, or something. Anyways, he was just talking about what's going on in Calgary, the opportunity for rent to own that he's found and seeing. He's done a number of different rent to own deals and using some of these creative buying strategies. There's an interesting thing that I'm seeing and hearing. So it's still a little bit anecdotal, but it's kind of boots on the ground people. I'm having a conversation with Barry in the wholesaling market, because as we know, it doesn't matter what province, what city, the challenge people are facing is there's no inventory. I can't find anything that cash flows. I can't find deals. Nothing makes sense. All of the things, which is all true. But if you take on wholesaling in a really powerful way, guess what? All of a sudden, if you're finding deals, there is a lineup of investors who actually do have capital to put to work if the right deal's there. And if you're a wholesaler, I think, to me, it seems quite obvious. I would suggest that anybody who has some tenacity and can really get out there and dig and find those deals, you've got buyers, or / investors that are willing to take those deals off your hand. And they're okay if there's a spread in the middle, as long as the math works. What's your thoughts on that?
No, that's exactly true. um, wholesalers, when they get started out, are often worried that they have found a property at a really good deal for whatever reason that might be. And there's lots of reasons why people sell their properties for less than market. They found a deal, and then they're afraid that their ultimate buyer, whoever they're going to sell the deal to, is going to be kind of mad or diminishes the situation because the wholesaler is going to make some money here. That's total crap. You have to have confidence in who you are, what you're doing, and what you're bringing to the buyers or the investors who are desperate to find a place, can't find one. You've got it, and you're going to make a few bucks. They don't mind, folks. Really, they don't mind. You can be quite upfront about what you're doing, and as long as the math works, your ultimate buyer is one that will pat you on the back and go, good for you. I'm glad you're making a few dollars. I love the house. I'm fine. Let's go.
Yeah.
So,
and go find me more.
Find me more.
Yeah. The thing about all these creative buying strategies as well is that within the context of creative buying strategy, we'll use wholesaling as an example. That's also active income. So if you're trying to, stay ahead of the rising inflation, well, wholesaling is one way to get some active income and get things happening and add to, the income that you might be making in your job or in your business or whatever you've got going on. That's the other side of it, right? Is that when we get into these creative buying strategies in these markets, all of a sudden you can put an extra 10, 15, 25, 50, 100, whatever the number is, but you can actually put some cash in your jeans today, not having to wait in a traditional buy and hold sense where even the math may not work today. So these are all things that we want to talk about. So listen, folks, we're going to cut it short here. But Barry, on the 20th, Eastern REIN member meeting. If you're a REIN member, you want to get out to that meeting, Barry is going to be out there. And for those of you who have not met Barry, again, he's been doing these deals for well over 40 years. Him and his amazing wife, Donna, have put together focus workshops, what they refer to as focus workshops. There's a whole range of insights and education that they can provide, but he's going to be there for us on the 20th. And him and I are going to go through a number of strategies to give you a more solid view of that world. Barry, thank you for your time. I know Donna's in the background there supporting the tech. So anyways, say hi to Donna, and thanks again.
Okay, Patrick, thanks. It's always fun, and we'll look forward to the 20th.
Beautiful.